Welcome back to our continuing adventures on the Let's Defend platform. If you couldn't tell, given the fact I'm wearing the Let's Defend t-shirt. Apparently they have released 4 more practice exercises underneath the incident responder path. So we are tackling them in order, temporal wise. So March 9th, 2023, 1:43 p.m. SOC187, EventID 127, multiple user login failures detected on same machine. So we are dealing with, looks like internal IP addresses, 172.31. Looks like we're hitting Ohio server, guest, alert trigger reason, more than 5 different login attempts from at least 2 different users within 5 minutes. With the L1 note of, I checked the authentication logs and saw different users' login failures, but I could not understand if the brute force was successful or not. So if we take a look at this, we go to endpoint and we take a look at Ohio server and we confirm that that is inside the range. And if we take a look at the private IP address ranges, so these would be the ones that we cannot rely on external threat intel regarding. So class A would be 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255.255. Class B would be 172.16.0.0 to 172.31.255.255. And class C, which probably most people are used to, 192.168.1.1 to 192.168.255.255. And of course, these ranges are all inside of that class B. And I did go through and do a search in the endpoint to see if we can find anything that matches, and nothing does for the 172.31.20.214. So apparently we have a box on network that apparently is in a different IP address range than what we generally tend to have, interestingly enough. But if we take a look at log management, and we're going to work from bottom up by the looks of it. So it looks like it's all trying to hit RDP. Account failed to log in for admin. Account failed to log in for administrator. Account failed to log in for the account windows. Account failed to log in for test. And the account failed to log in for guest. All different usernames, although I'd really love to know as to what they were trying for passwords. If I had to guess, the administrator one probably would be the local as opposed to AD. So I'm going to pause quickly and collect these for my notes in terms of for logs, and then we will move over to investigating the processes, web history, so on and so forth on the actual Ohio Dash server itself. So 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, got that done. So effectively through that, we have an attempt to log in via RDP to the admin account, administrator account, Windows account, test account, and the guest account. And if we take a look at the substatus that showed up, we end up having 2. We have 0xC00000064, and we have the same except in 64 it's 6A. So what I wanted to try, okay, here we go. 6.4 right here. No thanks. Okay, so if the substatus code is 64, it denotes that. Here, let me blow this up. So it's hopefully a little bit easier to read. Maybe, hopefully. So if it's substatus 64, it denotes that the username does not exist. So if we were to look at this, that would denote that the admin account does not exist, the Windows account does not exist, and the test account does not exist. Whereas the substatus of 6 alpha would denote that the username is correct, but the password is wrong, which means there is the administrator account, which is what we would expect on a Windows box, and a guest account, which I believe is also something we would tend to expect on a standard Windows box. I don't know, I just usually lock everything down so it's just me, so. But we have this. So if we take a look at the endpoints, and take a look at the browser history, is there anything here that is even remotely relevant? And again, we are looking for items for March 3rd. Or no, excuse me, March 9th. So it should be 3.9. So how to input multiple values, user 1, line, Python. Because if I remember the time code, it's day, month, year. It would have to be because there's no 22nd month. So find for me 09.03.2023. How many of these do we have? We have 8 matches. So I'm going to go ahead and make a separate section. So we got a perimeter log, and then we end up with a browser history section. And we will take these and I will put them in relevant order once I have them all together. So let's go ahead and just take a look and see if we can't build a rough timeline as to what would have been metaphorically looked at through here. And of course, the other aspect that we have yet to approach in regards to any of this is, of course, we haven't looked at the email security aspect to see if there's anything that might potentially stand out as relevant. Asking the right questions. Again, I question why someone is doing web surfing on a Windows server box. But we are here to investigate, not so much as to stick it to the end users. Although, I don't know, these alerts keep flagging. We may want to sit there and see about starting to remove, metaphorical fingers, and I joke. It can be very difficult, especially if you play the role as a security administrator, to figuring out what kind of positive or negative reinforcements work depending on behavior. And unfortunately, blanket doesn't always work, considering the fact that people are very individualistic. Although there's something to be said about a hive mind, but we won't go there. So, is there anything here that really stands out? And we're looking for the time that would, Now, it's interesting the difference in time here. The perimeter logs or log management section seems to denote this in AM and PM, so 12-hour clock. We take a look at the browser history thus far, and it is on the 24-hour clock. So we would be looking for something at 1341 or there's about. And effectively, there's not anything there, which is not really a bad thing. I mean, we really wouldn't expect that web browser history would probably have much to do with RDP logins, but let's just have an understanding as to what's going on in this box at the particular time. If we take a look at the command history, apparently there is no command history. Okay, fine. Network list of the same particular aspect. Okay, let me jot this down. And network connections is a brand new line. We'll do the same exact thing and make record of everything and then put them in the appropriate timetable. Excuse me. Looks like there are 8 matches through here. I'm going to expect that the only one we're going to really sit there and pay any sort of attention to realistically is going to be the 172.31.20.214. And we haven't hit that time period yet. Now we'll just take a look at processes to see as to whether or not if anything stands out, which again, I do not expect, given the fact that again, most of these are outside of the time frame that we're looking at. Although I am going to be rather concerned if this doesn't show up. And it shows 8 of 8. Yeah, that it wrapped back around. So if I were to put this in some semblance of order, going top to bottom, yeah, I don't see the, that's kind of odd. Actually, that's extremely odd. Why are we not seeing the connections that we would tend to expect? Okay, so if I go through and put these all in order from, so the latest, we would have none that would be showing up around that 141 to 142 or 1341 to 1342. We get one connection from a 142 address at 1037, and then we jump all the way to a 216 address at 1445 or 50. Wow, 1458. Excuse me, which would technically be what, about roughly an hour or so since this. I mean, a little bit over an hour, but so we're not getting anything there for network connections. And if we look at process list, okay, Adobe Acrobat Reader, not much of anything in here, although I gotta say, again, I do love the fact that it's built in to just immediately take a search at virus total. That is a very nice improvement of process, ease of process. And okay, that's valid. VMware, we get Chrome, WinInit, Chrome for a second time, WinLogin. Looks to be what we'd expect. The non-existent, not worth a damn semantic endpoint protection. We get the TI worker, Cortana. Yeah, so everything kind of sort of speaks to where that stuff would be. I'm always interested in further process in regards to anything that shows up for TI work or anything else along those lines, just to make sure. Because I believe I have observed it previously being part of a process chain for malware. But yeah, so looking at this, I don't see anything that really stands out. And we've got the manual raw logs, all of them stating that an account failed to log in. But we are probably going to want to go connect to the system and just verify that there are no logs successfully logged in from that IP address, given the fact that we do not see, according to network connections, a history for the 172.31.20.214, much less the fact that, according to endpoint management, or what is it, endpoint security, we don't have an official device that's registered there, which is a problem. I mean, unless the 172.31.20 range was set up for like a guest, but then that would be indicative that we don't have proper isolation on the guest network or the guest Wi-Fi network, depending as to which way you would have to term it. So we're looking for the 9th, and I do not see anything. Although if we take a look at red team, if only it was this easy to catch the red team. So we have notification from them officially. Hey, red team will be working on the following server between March 9th to the 16th, and you can close the requests coming from the 172.31.20.214 IP between these dates, within our knowledge. And again, so it's confirming that the attacker is then coming from 172.31.20.214, which is exactly what we were observing, and the target 172.31.31.155, which perfectly matches our Ohio server. So they were probably running through, and maybe they were trying. I don't know, maybe there was a password that was found on like maybe an internal SharePoint site, and they're like, hey, why don't we try this against, just a handful of accounts across the environment, or specifically this particular target. I guess it's a good thing we took a look at that one. I gotta say, I do love the fact that they did put in the red team notifications, and the fact that there are additional emails being popped into the email security aspect in terms of getting some sort of understanding as to what's going on. Something tells me this one for the 15th is going to be a follow-up for this poc.info, but that's not our problem right now. We're working these alphabetically or temporally. And we end up with a leave request to HR, but from Kane. Bonus points if you know the phrase where from God to Cain to Seth to you comes from. Oh, and then we have more. So then realistically, it's red team, so can we count this as malicious because we have this portion through here? Realistically, we could probably just close this up because we have the email in question from the red team denoting that, hey, just ignore and close anything that comes through here so we can count it as not malicious because it is planned red team activity. Even though realistically, if we weren't getting a heads up, then we would treat it all as malicious. But we have matched the IP address from the attacker that, well, okay, the red team matches exactly in the alert. We have the target, which is where this was throwing from, this Ohio dash server. Although I do question, why is it Ohio dash server? Is there a Michigan dash server? And for those that have any interest in the sports ball, so the grudge, I guess, against Ohio teams and Michigan teams. Not that I guess, really have any stake in that particular grudge, but so we have all that. So realistically, yes, we could just close this. But given the fact that we don't see the network connections in here, I'm going to go the extra mile. I want to connect in. I want to take a look at the event logs myself just to make sure that there were no logins at that particular time. So I'm going to go ahead and start the connection process and go from there. Now, you may feel comfortable enough to sit there and just, okay, we've got the out, we've got the email in question from the red team saying during this period of time, there's going to be this activity from this source to this target. Bing, bang, boom, you're good to go. Trust but verify. It may be effectively a little bit overkill, but it's just what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get this paused, and I will pick back up once this is done. All right, so we are back into the Ohio Dash server. We are looking at Windows logs and then security, and I have this filtered for events 4624, 4625, and we have during the time period in question audit failures for admin, administrator. Yes, I realize I highlighted SID. Windows, test, guest. And then we have another one that's at the end of it. An account was successfully logged in. Although it looks like outside of the activity. Well, the question is, does it actually denote the... There we get 143. So here's the question. Did this actually have sysmon running that we would be able to go through and use? Nope, don't see it. Okay. If we were looking at terminal services, where was it local session manager? Operational, seeing as how that's what we were looking at. Multi-user login, so let's defend for log off. And so it looks like Let's Defend was successfully logged into before that window. And they don't give us any other additional information. We have nothing in the other aspect? No. So yeah, all in all, it looks like no one was able to successfully log in. Realistically, I would love if Sysmon was on this box that we could verify via IP address about the attempts, and then to make sure that Let's Defend login afterwards is fully legitimate. But by going through and looking, it does not seem. And I would think that if this scenario was to be built out fully, then we would see a additional event in the perimeter log or log management section from that 172.31.20.214 of successful login to like the Let's Defend user account or one of the other ones. But this looks like they just took maybe like a generic password, or password 123 or spring 2023 and ran it across. But it does not look like it's anything massive in this particular portion. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. We will terminate. And then I think we are ready to go through and grab ownership and we'll work our way through this. And we'll start the playbook. We connected to the machine, we took a look. Enrichment and context. Source IP address is internal. Is there evidence that a red team or other legit work was done on the specified IP address? This again refers back to the email in question. So the red team was kind enough to sit there and go through and denote, hey, just heads up so you don't sit there and, start nuking and paving boxes and network isolating everything. But yes, we do have the email that ran for their operations March 9th to March 16th from the IP address in question that we have the alert for, and then to the targeted IP. So we're going to say yes, there is no threat yet. Appears to be a red team attempt to log in via RDP to the Ohio server using a password with the following usernames. And so we have admin, administrator, Windows, test, and test. Appears to be red team attempting to log in by RDP. Grab that, close the playbook, close the alert. So now comes the big question. Does the fact that it's red team sit there and denote that this is a false positive detection? Actually, no, let's take a look at the rule. The rule is multiple user login failures detected on the same machine, which is exactly what we confirmed, because they attempted to use 5 different accounts, only 2 of which actually exist on that Ohio server. So in that portion, I'm going to say it's a true positive because it matches the rule. there are 5 failed logins to that box. We'll see as to whether or not if they metaphorically punish me for that. Wasn't this supposed to be March? March 9th. Wrong answer, really. Okay, so I guess the fact that, okay, you take it as red team as an exemption, then, so that would be a false positive because it is known expected activity by that particular portion. I can't say I really agree with that particular aspect, but I don't run the platform. If that's how they want to run with the rules, that is fine. So then everybody should be aware that if it is red team activity, you will not mark it as true positive, it will be false positive. Underneath the expectation that this is expected activity from the red team, which is fine. I'm not sitting there trying to run up a high score on this thing. That has absolutely nothing to do with anything. But in the, I guess, fairness for those that actually care about what their score is, that, this might be a beneficial portion to be able to sit there and show to potential employers that, hey, I've already got some mock experience, at least in regards to, working through SOC stuff, everything else like that. Bear that in mind, please. Especially if there's going to be any sort of weight behind the scores. I mean, I don't care. This is all from the aspect of sharpening skills and being able to sit there and make these videos and hopefully be able to sit there and just continuously hammer in the thought process. Granted, it's my thought process. You may take it and have slight modifications. You may have radical modifications. But if it works for you and I can give you the framework, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, more power to you. So, this one they're going false positive, I'm assuming because of the fact that it is due to the red team aspect. Otherwise, if we did not have the email in question from the red team confirming the activity to which we kind of sort of expected during the time frame and not having the IPs match for the source and destination, then that we would actually move forward with having it as a true positive. So there almost needs to be like a third option: true positive, false positive, or expected activity, in which we would mark this as expected activity because of the fact that we have the email from the red team denoting this stuff. Again, not attempting to argue, but anyways, so hopefully that has been educational for you, hopefully entertaining. If not, well, I'll give you your money back. A refund of free. Anyways, so that has been for March 9th, 2023, 13:43 hours. SOC 177, EventID 127, multiple user login failures detected on same machine. And with all that being said, I will see everyone in the next video.